Let's focus on Chelsea. We were originally planning to start the show with Chelsea because there's so much to unpack after a host of key names were not included in Enzo Maresca's squad against Manchester City yesterday. Now, they lost the game by 2-0, but that seems to be almost a subplot in a wider story. We're joined by our chief reporter, Kaveh Solhekol, for much more on this one. Kaveh, it's really interesting. We need to start with Raheem Sterling. Curious set of circumstances. Left out of the matchday squad. A technical decision was the reason given by Enzo Maresca, but with no more meat on the bones. What does a technical decision mean? Where does it leave us?
I think, to me, a technical decision means that Raheem Sterling was told that if he stays at the club, he's not going to be playing regularly. And that was the message that was sent out yesterday because he was not in the matchday 20. Now, if you were a player who is as good as Raheem Sterling, somebody who is an experienced senior player who's on a big contract at Chelsea, somebody who's played for England 82 times, you need to be thinking about your future. And if you are not in a squad of 20, do you really want to stay and fight for your place? Now, I think Raheem Sterling is in a pretty good position. He's in a strong position because he's got 3 years left on his contract, and there are big clubs out there who are interested in signing him. I know for a fact, a couple of weeks ago, Juventus asked about signing him. Now, I'm not sure whether they've followed up on that interest, but those are the kind of calibre of clubs who he could move to. But reading between the lines, I was at the game yesterday. I heard Enzo Maresca speak afterwards about Raheem Sterling. Enzo Maresca is not going to come out and say in public, I sat down with Raheem on Friday. I told him it would be difficult for him to play if he stays. I think Enzo Maresca was being very diplomatic, using this phrase, technical reasons. But obviously, you've been in and around football for as long as I have. Reading between the lines, you know what is going on. He's somebody who earns a lot of money at Chelsea. I think Chelsea would like to get him off their wage bill, but I think they respect him because he's such an experienced and senior player. But I get the feeling that for everybody, the best thing would be if he was to leave Chelsea before the window closes.
It certainly seems to be the way that the wind is blowing. I was here yesterday covering the game. I was here yesterday, and when the news emerged about the statement issued from Raheem Sterling's team, his camp, whatever you want to call it, and Sterling's team, his camp, I was racking where this has ever happened, where a player's camp has released a statement while the game is still ongoing. How has the timing of the statement gone down at the club?
I don't think it's gone down that well. I think people at Chelsea were surprised that the statement came out when it did. Trying to sort of be devil's advocate and see it from Raheem Sterling's perspective. He is somebody who was involved in all the pre-season games for Chelsea. So when he had this conversation with Enzo Maresca, it's something that I think would have come out of the blue. So it would have been a blow for him to be told, you are not even going to be in the squad. And also, he's been told, or he's read between the lines, that this has major implications for his future. I think that's why the statement, the first sentence in that statement, referenced the fact that he's still got 3 years left on his contract. So he's kind of saying, if people are trying to force me out, I'm not going to be pushed out, or if I'm going to leave, it will be on my terms because I've still got 3 years left on my contract. So yes, I know that footballers, when they're dropped, are supposed to just stay silent, suck it up, take it on the chin, fight for your place. But we don't know what happened at that meeting with Enzo Maresca on Friday. If Raheem Sterling was told, you don't really have a future at this club, you need to find yourself another club, maybe then you could make a case for his out. Yes, and as soon as the news came out that he wasn't in the matchday 20, his representatives trying to get on the front foot and put Raheem Sterling's side of the story out there, which is that he was surprised, he's committed to Chelsea, he wasn't expecting to be dropped from the squad, and he wants to stay and fight for his place.
It feels a bit like an internal PR war from the club and then from the player, and we've got less than 2 weeks to find out how ultimately it's going to end up and whether Raheem Sterling will indeed find himself a new club. The key issue facing Chelsea here is the size and scale of the squad that Enzo Maresca has at his hands. He's already said it's a problem. So Sterling's unlikely to be the only player having to find himself in this position.
No, I mean, there are going to be a lot of players who are going to leave Chelsea in the next few days before the window closes. You know, we're thinking about players like Romelu Lukaku, players like Kepa, players like Trevor Chalobah, players like Conor Gallagher. So I know there's
some who would be happier to leave than others, though. Fair to say.
Definitely, and some who Chelsea fans want to stay. Chelsea fans are not happy about some of these players leaving. But I think we need to move a little bit away from all these headlines about the size of Chelsea squad, 43 players, 50 players. Yes, I understand that. I understand why that's controversial. But mark my words, when the window closes, Enzo Maresca is going to have a 25-man Premier League squad. There may be a couple of more under-21 players as well. But he is not working with 40 players. He's not working with 50 players. He's working with around 25 players. That's what Chelsea are going to end up with. So I think we need to wait until the window has closed before we judge Chelsea's transfer business. Although I totally understand. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. Everyone's having a free hit at Chelsea. Criticising Chelsea at the moment is like, you know, shooting fish in a barrel. Everyone's doing it. But I think from the owner's point of view, they feel they have a plan. And I think they would say, wait until the window is closed, judge us then.
Yeah, so they need to get players out. We know that. But every time there's a player up for a sale, their name seems to be in the mix. We've just talked about Matt O'Reilly might be going to Brighton from Celtic, and Chelsea's name is mentioned in that story. And another one, Victor Osimhen at Napoli, who wasn't in their squad last night. What do we know about that?
I think Victor Osimhen is a player who would really excite Chelsea fans. You know, he's the kind of player they need. They need an out-and-out striker. They need somebody with a physical presence. Watching Chelsea yesterday, that is one thing they're missing from their squad. The only issue with Osimhen is he's on big money as well. I think he earns around 300,000 euros a week at Napoli. Now, with all due respect to Napoli, Napoli cannot afford to keep him. And Chelsea know that. So what options does Osimhen have? Potentially PSG or Chelsea. We know that he would like to come to Chelsea, but I think Chelsea need to move some of their big earners out before they could afford to do a deal with Osimhen. And also, we know the Chelsea owners are not in the business anymore. 300,000 a week. The average wage at Chelsea now in the first team squad is around 70, 80,000 pounds a week, plus big bonuses. So I think they need to make space on their wage bill to get Victor Osimhen in. I think at the moment they're playing a little bit of poker with Napoli. And of course, Napoli are trying to get Romelu Lukaku as well. I think I wouldn't be surprised if in the next few days or by the time the deadline comes around, Lukaku is at Napoli and Osimhen is at Chelsea. But for Osimhen to come to Chelsea, I think quite a few players would need to leave Stamford Bridge.